And what could be available for the Montreal Canadiens if they maintain this pace? And judging by the injuries that were announced today, that could very well be in the 5 to 10 range. I know we talked about Connor Bedard, generational talent at this point. I don't think it's arguable. And then you kind of have Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlsson, Matvei Michkov kind of playing in that top 5. And then number 5 kind of gets tricky, and that's kind of where I wanted to get your take. We have guys like Zach Benson, Will Smith, Dalibor Dvorsky, Axel Sandin Pellikka. So I was just looking to maybe get your take on, one by one, maybe just going through and getting your take on what you think these guys could become, or what
there's some real depth in this draft. And the Vancouver Canucks, I just go to them.
Yeah.
They talk about tanking. At number 5 in the draft, they got Elias Pettersson, superstar. At number 7, they drafted Quinn Hughes, a number 1 defenseman in National Hockey. Okay, and so much Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, they're no brainers. Okay, we know they're no brainers. But to think you're not getting a quality player after that is ludicrous. There's quality players here, but they're all different. So if we just go through it, Axel Sandin Pellikka, I mean, he's a really good defender. All you got to do is watch how the coach used him at the World Junior. He had the most time on ice per game than any Swedish defenseman, 17 years old. The coaches put the players out there that they think are going to help them win. And so you got a right shot defenseman, great with the puck, poised, settled, really makes good plays. Dalibor Dvorsky, he's just a good two-way centerman. I look at him and go, I think he's going to have a really good NHL career. Is he going to be Michael Backlund? Well, that might be the downside. Is there more offense there? Time will tell. But this is a good player. Maybe he's Bo Horvat. Maybe maybe he'll become that level of player. But we're talking about a really, really good player here. Will Smith, you watch Will Smith play. I mean, a good sized centerman. We talk about hockey sense. Another great hockey sense player. And he can make plays, score goals, and he at times it almost looks too easy because he is so smart, right? Zach Benson, I think he's got Patrick Kane type game, So you can't eliminate Zach Benson based on height because of the way he plays and the style of game he has. Dalibor Dvorsky. So what I'm telling you here is the Montreal Canadiens are going to have a smorgasbord of talent to choose from. Right? They're going to have a smorgasbord of talent to say, well, you know what? Yeah, we might rate that guy a little bit higher, but we want this player at this position, right? And that's what the draft offers you. It would be great if it was just, okay, it's all the same player. Who's the best one out of it? They're all different, and they all offer something different. As you're building up your prospect pool and you're building up, and you're evaluating players, what are the different elements a player adds? Martin Lapointe, who oversees for player personnel development, right? He was the 9th overall pick in the draft. You go look at Martin Lapointe's career. Martin Lapointe was a critical player for the Detroit Red Wings' success. Critical player, okay? And you need Martin Lapointe in your lineup. And Marty was a really good offensive player, and he came in the NHL. He contributed offense, but the significance of his play and what he added. And you're trying to build out your team in different ways. So, they might look and go, well, we have Cole Caulfield. Do we want another small winger in Zach Benson? It doesn't mean they don't like Zach Benson, but you want 2 players like that because Zach's got to be a top 6 forward. He's not going to be a third-line winger. So, so as good as Zach is, Montreal might just say, hey, you know what, we're going to – and you have – you're trying to balance it out. I think it's a great opportunity for them to continue to build out their prospect group. And as they continue to build out the prospect group, you're doing it with different types of players that fit into – that's how you become a top team. I can go back to the 70s, and you think back, they drafted Bob Gainey in the first round. They drafted Doug Risebrough in the first round. They drafted Mario Tremblay in the first round. Those were 3 first-round draft picks. in consecutive years. And they all were instrumental in different ways for the success of the Montreal Canadiens dynasty in the 70s. So
Yep.
it's no different now for the Montreal Canadiens finding different players. Yeah, everybody wants the little Fleurs and the Schutts and the Robinsons and everything, but there's some really, really good players that become, I think, really important if your team wants to have long-term success. And I'm talking about competing for Stanley Cups.
Absolutely. And, we talk about this, where the Canadiens' first round pick is right now, but there's also Florida's that is currently in play. And, Florida is on a little bit of a heater right now, but, the chances of that pick is between 10 and 20 is getting higher by the day, especially with the dogfight that is the Eastern Conference right now. So I guess my question in this case, based on the way that this is kind of projecting or looking, would you say that 10 to 20 slot this year has more depth in the first round is always going to be there, but is it higher talent levels between 10 and 20 this year for you as opposed to your 10 and 20 last year?
Yeah, I think we always look at it. We have the benefit of hindsight to look at what happened last year and to see how players have progressed. And then you're trying to look at this year and project. So what I would say is, when I watch this year's draft, I think that the way I would portray it, Marco, is that when I'm looking at the draft, I think that, deeper into the draft, which is past the first half, I think there's more opportunity for players that can be, playing your top two lines, be top three defensemen. You're not going to get it. You shouldn't get a number one defenseman in the second half of the first round. But maybe a 2 or a 3 or even a 4 second pair defense. I think that there's more opportunity. Whereas a lot of drafts, you're looking at going, okay, if we get a regular player out of here, a player that's a number 4 defenseman or a third line center or winger, you're doing pretty good. I think a lot of times, there's a misrepresentation of players. And if you get a regular out of the draft, picking from 17 to 32, I think you're doing really well, a regular player. But it gets first round attached to it. So, they got to be this. A good third line player coming from the first round is valuable. So, but I think as I point out, I think there's more opportunity for the players that I've seen for them to be top 2 line players or top 3 defensemen. And I think that's where you see a little bit higher potential for quality coming in this year's draft than last year.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to bring it to like players like, David Reinbacher that we saw at the World Junior Championships, Colby Barlow, who currently leads the OHL in goal scoring, Andrew Cristal, who has been a revelation right now. I believe actually he's in your top 10, so I won't say 10 to 20, but
so is Barlow.
So it's true. Yes, I did see Barlow there. And that's a guy I've had also on my radar just simply because he plays with Canadiens prospect Cedric Guindon, and they form quite the pair. And, you also have guys like Callum Ritchie. A lot of people are a little confused until they watch him as to why Callum Ritchie is ranked so high, because the Hockey DB page isn't sexy, but the tape really very much is. He doesn't play on a very strong team, but is that big shooting center. I'm just watching him rip shots. The technique is incredible.
Well, it is. I mean, you haven't mentioned Braden Yeager. You haven't mentioned. You haven't mentioned Gabe Perreault or Oliver Moore. Or Ryan Leonard, right? You haven't mentioned any of those guys, right? I mean, those are all really, really good players. And you start to go through it, right? You start to try to think about you haven't mentioned Ethan Gauthier, who I think is a terrific two-way centerman. And, Matthew Cataford, who's playing so well now. I mean, he played on the Helenka Gretzky team. His game is going like this, right? Like I'm just naming some players. Samuel Honzek, another Slovakia player, who's been really good. He's hurt right now. But, you start to think it doesn't take us very long, Marco, to get to 20 players. It doesn't. And players that we can, our eyes can get a little bit bigger and we can get excitement in our voices when we talk about them. And I think it speaks to that quality that you're going to be able to assess and consider, whether it be at 18, whether it be at 23 or wherever it may be, that you can get excited. You can get excited about it.
Yeah. And, I had we did our own top 32 at Montreal Hockey Now. And I think I had the toughest time last year was to try and fit 10 to 20. I think the toughest time I had this year was trying to get to 32 and cut it off, because I had to put guys out of my lineup that would have gone first round, no problem, in another draft, like a Caden Price, or I was also looking at Hunter that was playing in Kitchener. They have two players right now,
Brutevich, Hunter Brutevich.
And Brutevich. There you go. I can never pronounce his name, but it's okay. Those are two.
Like it's
Mike McKenzie laughed at me too. Mike McKenzie made a good joke about it as well, because watching him play with Meshar on that power play, like, I enjoyed them. But it was so hard because there are players that are kind of rising. Jaden Perron is another one that I've really liked in the USHL. So I just find that the quality of depth this year is something to get excited about. And it's one of the reasons why